owners, when they hear that, a lot of times they go into a state of panic. Take crate rest really seriously too, right? There's a reason why your vet is telling you to go on crate rest. And it's something that a lot of times people, and myself included, I'm guilty of this. They'll kind of, they won't take it as seriously. They'll say, oh, he can just do this or he can just do that. And I think that a way that we can help owners do that is by giving them a plan, right? So tried and true methods that we know will work with your dog when they do have to go on crate rest.
Hey everyone, I'm Kathy Santo and welcome to the Dog Sense podcast. I am here with my co-host, Sarah. Hey, Sarah.
Hey guys.
All right. So Sarah, you know, this is true. We've both experienced it. There is going to come a day or two in every dog owner's life when the dog is put on crate rest. And it could be for many different reasons. It could be a surgery or an injury or whatever else. But it means that your dog is going to spend most of his day resting in his crate. Now, I don't know about you, but when I've had to be on bed rest for whatever reason, I wanted to chew my left foot off. Thank God I have an iPad and an iPhone and all that stuff to occupy myself. But, you know, dogs really don't have that. And I know you've experienced that too. And it is a living hell for owners and the dogs.
Yeah. And I think what's really important is that, so owners, when they hear that, a lot of times they go into a state of panic because they're like, how in the heck am I going to keep my 8-month-old puppy on crate rest while he deals with whatever injury we may be having going on? Maybe it's an older dog, whatever. And I think what's really important is to also take crate rest really seriously too, right? There's a reason why your vet is telling you to go on crate rest. And it's something that a lot of times people, and myself included, I'm guilty of this. They'll kind of, they won't take it as seriously. They'll say, oh, he can just do this or he can just do that. If you want your dog to heal properly, you have to take crate rest seriously. And I think that a way that we can help owners do that is by giving them a plan, right? So tried and true methods that we know will work with your dog when they do have to go on crate rest.
And it's worth talking about the fact that this is why your dog should be crate trained because these things are going to happen. Sarah, do we have an episode on that? I think
yes, we do have a crate training episode.
Okay, good. Well, we've done that and we can put a link to it. But yeah, you got to do that. And also, Sarah, I know people say, well, that's for when they're older, but it's not true because puppies can have pano, they can have osteo. There's a lot of reasons that a puppy, besides injuries, might be put on crate rest. So our first and best tool in our toolkit is a frozen food puzzle toy. Now, we say Kong all the time, but it doesn't mean there's only Kongs, but that tends to be the word that we use, frozen puzzle Kongs. And the idea of this is to get your dog to work for what he wants and then therefore become brain tired and slightly body tired because they are using their jaws, they are using their paws. So it's a great way to get them working for what they want. And at the end of it, hopefully they're nice and tired.
Yeah, and a few options so Kongs is also a great one. Another brand is called Westpaw. You really have to figure out what your dog likes. And I think another really important thing to touch on with the stuffed frozen food toys is don't go right into fully freezing your food toy. If you haven't kind of tested this with your dog before, because sometimes they need to learn how to win the game. So the first time you do this, I would just put dry kibble in a Kong, right? Teach them how to boop it, lick it, teach them how to problem solve this thing, give them that quick win. Then the next time, maybe you mix the kibble up with some plain Greek yogurt and a little bit of peanut butter, and then you just put it in the refrigerator for a couple of hours. So it's kind of getting harder, but it's not fully frozen. Then once your dog figures out that level, then we level up. We go to the next one, right? So then we go to the fully frozen food toy. That again will keep them occupied for 30 minutes easily or an hour or two as well, depending on kind of what you stuff in your food toy.
Yeah, we've seen dogs with very low frustration tolerance, which is also something we encourage you to teach your dog. They look at that, they go, I don't get it. And that's it, right? And if they've never had anything frozen before, you know what? Get an ice cube, get your ice cube tray and freeze a little 1/4 inch of ice or chicken broth and then put a piece of cheese on that and then more broth and then freeze it and teach your dog how to access something like that before you go to the big frozen food puzzle toy.
Yeah. And another question we get all the time too is what the heck do you put in it? Right. They're like, my dog or an owner will try one thing. They'll try some peanut butter and the dog won't like it. And they'll be like, oh, it's not going to work. So in order to make sure that we don't have those kinds of problems with owners, Kathy actually created her Perfect Dog Pacifiers ebook, right? So this is an ebook that has, I think we have over 50 recipes in there of all different combinations. We have sensitive stomach ones, we have puppy ones, we have adult dogs, we have themed ones. We have all different kinds of recipes in there for things that you can put inside your frozen food toy. We'll put a link to that in the show notes.
Now, funny story, before we wrote this ebook, when I was on Martha, one episode, we were doing Q&A with the audience, and I was talking about stuffing and freezing a Kong. And she was like, that's what you do with Kongs? I'm like, Martha, you were just giving it to them without any food? And she was like, yeah. And I'm like, girl, I got recipes for you. I'm going to share my Kong recipes for you. It was quite a moment. So yeah, we have that for you. And I should send her a copy as well.
Yeah. So the frozen food toys, that's one of the first things, right? It works the dog's brains mentally because they're problem solving. It's frustration tolerance, and it's a bit of physical stuff as well. And that's an easy one where if you have to go to work in the morning and normally your dog would get a walk or a training session or something, you can then give them that frozen food toy to help occupy them, help burn off some energy. Now, if you do have the time and you can do that training session, there are still things that you can do with a dog who's on crate rest, even depending on the level of crate rest that they're on as well.
And I love target work. So you can teach your dog to touch your hand with his nose or a target stick or really any other object. And I love it because you can get them really excited and they can accomplish it without running around. They could be lying down. You could be like, ready, and put your hand in front of their nose, and then they can reach forward. And then you put it a little higher and under their chin, and maybe you put something in front of it and they got to push it away to get to it. But it's a really awesome game for them to play, and it builds your relationship because I think that's the other struggle owners have. You know, the dog is on crate rest, and so they're not with them and they feel that loss of companionship. You know, you can sit on the floor, have the crate door open, you're halfway in the crate and you're playing these games, and it helps the dog still feel connected to you. Yeah.
And this can literally be done for a dog. And again, there's varying levels of crate rest, but for a dog who truly can't move, maybe they have a broken leg or an amputated leg or something like that. These are games that you can play with them. So this is one of my favorite. Okay. So it starts off with look, right? So you're teaching your dog to make eye contact with you, but you can also, and this is one of my favorite things, is teach them something like cheese or open, right? So when you're taking pictures of them, once they recover and you guys are back out on the hiking trails, you can literally teach them to look at you and open their mouth at the same time. So valuable to get those perfect pictures.
And this is ironic because 90% of Sarah's pictures that she takes with one of her dogs in particular,
he never smiles. He does it to spite me, though. I swear to goodness, because I will literally, Nev is beautiful, right? She opens her mouth, she's cheesing the whole thing. She loves it, right? And then Jack, literally, I will take out my phone and point it at him, and he will close his mouth, and I can see him rolling his eyes at me, being like, oh, will you stop it? We're on a hike. We're having so much fun. I don't care about your pictures.
He has totally blown up so many amazing, beautiful billboard photo quality pictures. So
if you see more pictures of me hiking and it's Nev's smiling, beautiful face, it's because she actually poses for photos.
And we Photoshop Jack out. But you're working on it. So there you go. I like get it and leave it games.
Yep.
So I can put a cookie on their crate or, on the floor, and they're laying down, so they don't have to run for it. And I say, get it. And then I put another cookie down and I change its name to leave it. And I say it the same way. For a dog who knows it, if they don't, you're a little bit more helpful. You're saying, get it. And you're saying, leave it. Right. So the tone is different, but eventually they understand it. And I like that game because I can put down 4 cookies singularly. Right. So I put one down, get it, put one down, get it, put one down, get it, put one down, leave it. And if they go for it, it's a quick cover with your hands, like the shell game.
And unlike my favorite, like teaching them to smile at the camera, this one is actually real world applicable, right? Your get it, leave it games, like you need to practice those. And even if your dog's on rest, you can still make sure that you're challenging their impulse control and their vocabulary too. Because if you do, you should always be changing it, right? It should be 3 times you say get it, and then the 4th time you say leave it. And then you say get it once, and then you say leave it, right? So you're always making sure that you're challenging them and keeping them on their toes.
And when they're more advanced, you can just say words that start with G, like instead of get it, like Gatorade.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I love that game. Yeah.
So for dogs who might not be at the get it, leave it stage, you could also just do your impulse control games, right? So put the cookie on the ground, maybe practice that fun. Everyone always gets pictures of like with their dog's paws, they have the one cookie on it. And then as you get really good, depending on how long your dog's on crate rest, You got cookies going all the way up their paws. You get cookies on the bridge of their nose. Those are fun ones that are testing impulse control. You're keeping your dog engaged. And again, it's testing impulse control.
I don't know what we did without social media. Like back in the 80s, nobody had this. So we were putting cookies on our dogs and never getting credit for it. But now the whole world is giving you thumbs up.
And like call over your neighbors and be like, guys, look, I swear it really happened.
So I took a picture, but I have to take it to get developed. So in a few days, I can show you. It's madness. Okay, impulse control games. Those are great, but I also like nose work, which is no impulse control, where you put a cookie and then you put a cup over it, like a Dixie cup, red Solo cup, and the dog gets to knock it out of the way and find the cookie. Once he does that, you go beyond just one cup. Now you have 2 or 3 and 4 and 5. And if the dog is able to walk, you can do this on leash and walk him down a line of cups that are covering one cookie, and he has to find which one has the cookie. I like to let my dogs knock the one over with their nose and then get it themselves. If I was working on a more of an alert, I would wait for my dog to sit, and then I would remove the cup, pick it up, and feed it to him. So it just depends on the level your dog is at and what you'd like them to do.
Okay, so last two. Okay, sorry. So be careful. So a lot of times people want to teach their dogs speak, right? So be careful with who your dog is. We don't usually recommend that one. But again, if you're really bored and you have like 6 weeks of crate rest, like I do with my dog right now, maybe you do want to teach them speak. But again, make sure that they're at an age. We usually save that for older dogs who have a good level of impulse control. Make sure that they're at an age where they then won't just walk around the house barking at you. Last one is hold for an object, right? That can also then progress to bring, right? So you teach your dog to hold certain objects. We'll start off with like a magic marker or a roll of tape or a paper towel roll or something, right? So you teach them to hold an object, and then eventually maybe you get to the point in your crate rest where your dog can do minimal movement. You can then start to practice bring, which means go pick up that item and bring it over to me.
Now, and just like a real quick 15-second how to teach that. So let's say you started with like a pen or a Sharpie or wooden dowel, right? So you put it in front of the dog goes, what the heck is this? And then you use your marker word, which I hope you have. If you don't, we have a podcast on that, I think. Right, Sarah?
Yeah.
And then you would give the marker word, yes, and feed, and then hide this again. So when the pen shows up or whatever it is, and the dog goes near it, you mark and feed. One day, maybe after 5 or 6 reps, you put it out and the dog goes, I understand this. And he goes close and he doesn't get markered for that. And he's like, what the heck is this thing on? He goes closer and touches it. And then you mark that. And you incrementally decide to raise your criteria. And then you're going to mark for more. Like his mouth goes over it. His mouth closes on it. He holds it for a second. So there's a whole progression, and likely we need to do an episode on that. But that's how you get started. Using your marker word is so key for this.
Yeah. All right. So next up is training games for dogs who can do minimal movement, meaning they can't go sprinting around the backyard, but they can walk. They're cleared to kind of walk around the house normally.
So that would be games like spin, right? In either direction. Go to place. You can do cookie stretches, which is we show them a cookie and we move it slowly level with their nose. We move it to their shoulder, then we move it to their rib cage, and then we move it all the way to their hind end, and then we do it the other direction. So stretches, I'm telling you, Sarah, spin and stretches are my secret weapon in knowing if my dogs are working something out or there's something going on. Because if I ask any of my dogs to spin and they don't, they're going right to the vet, because it is my little diagnostic to know whether or not my dog is in pain or there's something wrong. It's just such a great thing to have.
Yeah. So next up, search. So that's a progression of your nose work games, right? So if your dog now understands how to search and find the piece of food, you can now do searches in one room of your house. So basically what that would be is put your dog in a sit, put them on place, go into a room, hide a couple piles of food on the ground, count your piles so you know how many you're searching for, then bring the dog in so you don't, have tuna left over somewhere. Bring your dog in and let them search for those piles of food. That's an awesome one to work their brain, their body. And a lot of time it's biological fulfillment for a lot of those dogs who love to use their nose.
We also like targets, which we call paws up, teaching your dog to put their paws on novel surfaces. And there's a lot of reasons that we do it. We start them as young as possible. We want them to value novelty as far as surface, because I don't want to have the dog who won't walk over the sewer grate in the city. I want them to work on balance, and I just want them to be excited about doing new things. In addition, a paw target is a way of teaching stay without the sit or the down. They understand that when their feet are on there, they cannot move until they're released. So we also do that for strengthening and conditioning. So we'll put them on surfaces that have a little give to them. And you guys can use like the back of your couch's cushion or a pillow, anything like that that's going to give them some reason to work their core. Now, obviously, if they're recovering from something, you can't go into that piece of it. But you can start it now. So when they're healthy, they know paws up and they can do all those good conditioning workouts.
Yeah, another really awesome one, which will come in handy later on, is teaching side or settle, right? So that's where the dog goes into a down. You then put the cookie on their nose, you lure them into rolling onto one side of their body, which can be really helpful for certain kinds of vet exams. If you need to do their nails, a lot of times people will do it from that position as well. But that's another fun one where, again, we're doing it because we have the time and we're on crate rest, but it can be very valuable later on down the line as well at a vet appointment.
Now, here's one.
I knew you were going to roll your eyes at this one.
I know. All right. So this is controversial.
People love it, though.
I know. Okay. Teaching your dog high five or shake or paw or whatever the heck you want to do it. Just don't teach it when they're young, right? Because I think it's a terrible idea to teach your puppy that when he hits you with his foot, you will dispense treats like a vending machine. Like, don't do it. However, if you must, I will say it's a good way to do a stretch, because if your hand is far away and they're reaching out for it, it does get a little bit of a stretch going. So yes, you can put a cookie in your hand and hold it level or low to their foot, and then they're going to scratch at it and lick at it. And when they finally do put their foot on it, say yes, use your marker word and feed it to them. I don't know if I could sound less enthusiastic about this.
Yeah, that one's it's similar to teaching your dog speak, right? Make sure that your dog is older, they have impulse control, and you also understand how to only reward those behaviors when you ask for them and to not allow it to become an attention-seeking behavior.
Exactly.
All right, so we mentioned this one earlier, bring, right? So once you have taught your dog to how to hold something in their mouth, you can also then teach them how to bring it to you. That's a fun one that I was talking to one of my clients, eventually can lead to those fun tricks like having your dog bring you a beer from the fridge. Like the first piece of that is you have to teach them to pick something up and bring it to you. So can be a fun one that you can really progress as well. So even once they start to feel better, they're no longer in crate rest, there's a ton of different things that you can do with your bring command.
I can totally tell that you set this order up because I got to talk about the fist bump and you got to talk about bringing beer from the fridge. Next time I'm doing the lineup. Okay, next up is chin rest. And I do love this exercise, and it teaches your dog how to put their chin in your hand or on your leg. And I remember my student Marge had an amazing dog named Bongo. Oh, rest in peace, Bongo. We loved you. But he would go to nursing homes and she taught him rest. And when she said rest, Bongo would put his adorable little chin on their legs. And just while they're sitting in their wheelchairs or in their bed, they would pet him. Oh my God, it was amazing. But there's a lot of other reasons you can do it too. Like if you need to examine your dog, you need to look in their eye, you need to look at their ear. You need to lift up their lip. If they will consent to doing it by starting with the chin rest, putting their chin in your hand, you are well ahead of the game. And I'd like to remind you all that if we can teach zoo animals to do this kind of stuff, your domesticated canine can do it as well, and probably even faster and safer for you.
Yes. All right. So one more, again, this kind of goes back to being useful for vet appointments later on down the line. So if you're sitting in a chair, starting to teach them commands like line up, right? That's a big one that we teach for husbandry kind of basic stuff. So line up is where the dog spins around and sits in between your legs facing outward. From there, you can check their ears, you can check their eyes, you can, do compression work, press against the chest. Maybe you need to lift a leg to do a blood draw at a vet's office. Line up can be a really, really useful command to have. Another one would be set up, right? So that's teaching the dog to come to one side. Usually we do it on the left side. So they would spin around the left side, sit next to you in the chair. If your dog already has a setup command when standing, this is just a progression and a challenge of that. Last one is one of my favorites, under. Okay, so under is super, super useful if you ever are going out in public with your dog. Under is where you teach your dog when you're sitting in a chair, you tell them under, they go running underneath your legs and sit in a down right underneath your legs, tucked away from, any of the action going on. So if you're at a restaurant, you're at a park bench, you're going to get lunch with friends or something like that, you can have your dog come with you. If they know the under command, they can then tuck under and out of the way while you guys enjoy your meal.
And teach it in both directions. So Your dog should go from right to left and left to right. Because what happens if your dog just knows how to go from your right leg to the left leg, and then their head is under your left leg, right? But you're at the vet's office, and on your left side is somebody with a really naughty, scary dog. And now your dog is nose to nose with it, right? It will behoove you, and you will thank us for telling you to teach it in both directions.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. I think that's all of them. Any other ones, Kathy?
No, I think we're good. I think that's a lot.
Yeah, that was a lot, guys. All right. So that's it for this episode of Kathy Santo's Dog Sense. Again, thanks for joining in on this one. It's, again, even if you don't know, you don't have a dog on crate rest right now, it's pretty highly likely it may happen in the lifetime of your dog. So it's really beneficial to know these ahead of time so that when you get that diagnosis from your vet and they say, hey, you got to go on crate rest for 2 weeks, you don't have a panic attack in the vet's office. If you guys have any questions about any of the kind of examples that we gave, you're welcome to email us, info@kathysanto.com. And then as always, like we mentioned in the beginning, if you like what you hear, jump over to whatever subscription service you download from, like, rate, subscribe, take a screenshot of this episode, share it over to a friend, family, or neighbors so that we can help as many dog and puppy owners as we can. We love being able to create this awesome community of dog lovers and learners. All right, guys, happy training, and we'll see you guys for the next episode.
Bye, guys.